Tough night at the office for Frank Martin. Now, I had him winning this fight on my card, 114, 113. He needed the 12th round to get a draw, and that knockdown that he scored in the 12th round is what gave him the 1-point victory. My hat's off to him, but it was not an easy task. The question at the end of the day is going to be, why wasn't he able to get things going? Why was this fight that he was going into as an overwhelming favorite, 12-1, 13-1, why did this fight end up being more difficult than it needed to be? Or why was this fight more difficult than people thought it was going to be? Because here's the thing, when you look at it, Artem was getting off. Harutyunyan was getting off with a jab and a right hand to the body. He was being aggressive. He was coming forward. He was backing Frank Martin up. He was using that jab and he was using that right hand to the body. Now, a lot of the rounds were close. I ended up giving Frank Martin 2, 6, 7, 10, 11, and 12. And what's interesting is that the rounds that Frank Martin won, they were pretty clear. Particularly 6, 10, 11, and 12. Man, he got off in that 6th round. Got off in the 10th round. 111, scored the knockdown in the 12th. I gave him the second round was relatively close, but I gave him that one because of a beautiful counter left hand that he landed late in the round. He landed the more significant shots in the fight. But Harutyunyan was able to get some good work done. And the question is why? Why wasn't Frank able to respond to that? Why wasn't he able to make the adjustment? Because from what I saw, when he decided to press forward, when he decided to be aggressive, when he decided to just step on the gas pedal and put his shots together, he was able to get good work done. He was the more athletic guy, more explosive guy, faster hands, faster feet. And when he went out there and fought like the better athlete, that's when he was able to make stuff happen. That's when we saw the beautiful 6th round. That's when we saw stuff like the 10th round. But when he was going out there and allowing himself to be backed up, when he was trying to set up a shot, when he was, being a sniper and being patient and looking for counters, he was not able to get it done. Derrick James had some choice words for him in between rounds a few times in this fight. Early on, I think it was after the 4th, after the 5th, he just came back into the corner. He looked at him and said, "Why aren't you getting busier?" Frank Martin responded, I'm just not doing it. And Derrick James told him, "Well, get after it, man. Do it." Later on in the fight, it was after the 9th round, he looked at him and he told him, he's like, "You might be down on this fight. You might be down on these cards. I need you to go out there and get a stoppage. You have to go out there and get a stoppage. Be aggressive." He was letting him know, man, that some stuff needed to be done, that it did not look good. After the fight, Frank Martin, in the post-fight interview, he just summed it up. He said, basically, my reaction time was off. My timing was off. Jim Gray asked him why. He said, "I don't know. I can't tell you why. All I know is that I was off." Now, that's an interesting situation, right? Because here's the thing. Fighters are always scrutinized far more than you see other athletes. We see NFL players come out playing minimum, 17 games a year. NBA, 82 games a year. Major League Baseball, like 160 games a year. So when a guy comes off, he has an off game. I mean, how many times did Jordan have an off game? LeBron have an off game? Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, whoever you want to bring up in all these other sports, some of the all-time greats, of course they had off games. A few off games per season, no problem at all. Nobody questions it. We talk about it a little bit here and there, but nobody's saying the man's a fluke. Nobody's saying the man's exposed, anything like that. But fighters, we see him so infrequently, 2 times a year, 3 times a year, that every individual performance gets scrutinized. Every individual performance just gets dissected and picked apart, seeming maybe it's more than it seems. And sometimes we're right. Sometimes it's just a matter of time before the chink in the armor gets exposed, and then we see it and it proves that there's a lot more missing to this fighter than we really thought. Other times it was just a bad night at the office, and we read into it more than it needs to be. And that's what we're doing with this situation with Frank Martin, man. Everybody's coming in dissecting it because, he came into this fight talking about how he was going to be a blowout victory. He's calling out the top of the division, mentioning names like Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson, saying he wants all the smoke, saying he wants to go out there and make it happen. And then after a performance like tonight, it doesn't look like he's ready for the top of the division. But maybe it was just an off night at the office. Maybe there's no real reason to read into it. Maybe it's just like he said, I saw all the shots, but for some reason I just couldn't pull the trigger. Because look, his footwork was on point, man. He was working the angles. He was moving well. but he wasn't letting his hands go. So I believe him in that sense. But the question is why? Why wasn't he able to respond when Artem was coming forward with the jab and the right hand to the body? Why wasn't he catching and shooting? Why wasn't he able to cut that angle and come forward with a counter? Why wasn't he able to do something to make Harutyunyan stop shooting those shots? Just like his trainer was telling him, look, man, keep working those counters and eventually he will stop punching. But he didn't. Right? Frank Martin never really did that for the most part until late in the fight. We saw him take over. 10, 11, and 12, he won those rounds. Messed dude's eye up bad enough in the 12th round, forced him to take a knee. But other than that, these were a lot of very close rounds. So it'll really be interesting to see what happens in this next fight. It'll be really interesting to see who Frank Martin fights in his next fight and how he looks. Look, this was a WBC title eliminator, but who knows what's going to end up happening with these belts. I'm not going to sit here and claim like, oh, that's it. I guess all of a sudden that means we're going to see Frank Martin versus Devin Haney in his next fight. I mean, look, we see a back and forth right now with Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez. Who knows? Haney may not even defend and he may end up moving to 140 pounds. That whole thing is a story of its own. But I'll be really keeping a close eye on Frank Martin. I mean, I think the sky's the limit with dude. I've said it before. I'll say it again. He's incredibly talented. I think there's so much that he can do. I mean, he's a young guy, so coming out and seeing him not shine one night, come out and seeing him get a tough victory. I mean, if he comes out and looks great next time, we're going to stop talking about this right away because it'll be just a blip on the radar. It means nothing. And at the end of the day, he did exactly what he needed to do and he ended up digging deep and finding a way to get the win. So the truth will be ending up seeing what happens next time, because if he comes out and he makes the same type of mistakes and he has a bad performance, now we're going to start to say it looks like a trend. If he comes out and he looks like the old Frank Martin and starts blowing the doors off people, we're just going to say that it was really nothing and it was just a bad night. So the proof will come as we see him come out and continue to do future work. So, let me know what you guys think. Were you impressed by the performance that he put on tonight? Was it really that our expectations were wrong and Artem was just a better fighter than anybody expected? Let me know what you guys think.